Good afternoon, everybody watching. My name is Isaac, and this is the Creative Burrows Gaming Channel. Today I'll be starting a Let's Play series of Factorio, version 0.17.experimental for you. I've played a couple hundred hours in 0.16, and in all that time I never launched a rocket. So I figured, with this new 0.17, I would get back in, I would finally launch that rocket that I never did in all my 200 to almost 300 hours of playing before. And that I would share that with all of you. And I wanted to share this because I was going to be making a video log of what I was doing anyways. I realized that the reason I probably never launched a rocket is I got distracted. And I started working on other things, and then when I would come back to play a save game in Factorio, I just wouldn't remember exactly where I was or where I was going. Or the muscle memories would have kind of faded. I needed some time to work them back to peak condition. So for this one, I wanted to start a video log, so I could always just watch the last episode, watch the last log, and remember where I was headed, and then pick up there. And if I'm going to go through all the effort of putting together a video log, then I might as well share it, so that maybe somebody else can get some exposure to this game, hear a different thought process on how to play it, and all the other reasons that everybody watches YouTube videos, to share ideas and communicate concepts. So I thought I'd share this one. So we're going to be starting a new game today. I've picked out a map. I haven't played it, but I've picked it out. And what I've done is, because I am a little bit rusty and because I've never launched a rocket, and so don't have this very detailed plan of how I want to go there, I've increased the size and richness of all the raw material patches to maximum, and slightly increase the frequency of iron, copper, and stone. That way I don't have to worry about where my resources are coming from. I can spend more time planning and building. For terrain, there's just more water. Coverage with a slightly larger scale, because I think that produces a much more interesting map. I've kind of fiddled around with the tree setting. Turned cliffs almost completely off, but not completely. Otherwise, what's the point of ever using cliff explosives? And using explosives is always fun. For moisture, I've set the bias all the way over towards green, and the terrain type is red desert versus sand. So I've got that for whatever patches of desert might spawn. I've got it set towards bias more towards red desert than sand, because sand will slow you down when you're running. And if I'm trying to build something or trying to get away from biters and I find myself in a bunch of sand, it's going to turn out horribly for me, I think. Speaking of the biters, the native population of the planet we've crash landed on, I have elected to keep them in this game because you have to have some form of external threat, I think, to make the game interesting, to actually apply pressure. And you also, or at least me, I want to be able to get used to having them in the game. They're a part of it. They're an intrinsic part of the game. And I don't want to cut them out completely. They make for some fun decision making, I think. But at the same time, I don't want to have to clear a patch of biters and then have to re-clear a patch of biters, so I've turned off enemy expansion. And then under advanced, I have the research queue always available. That way I can figure out what I need to research to get to the next goal in launching a rocket, and all the prereqs for it, and get that all queued up. And that will prevent me from being interrupted trying to remember exactly where I was going with the research, and instead allow me a bit more time to build things up. And then when my research queue finishes, I know I've completed at least one leg of all the research necessary to get to launching a rocket, or at least the small section of research I can queue up, but I'll at least have completed a path and be able to chart out where I go from there much easier. And I've left pollution in at default levels, because if I ever want to play a purely default game, I want to be able to understand how quickly my pollution could spread. I want to know exactly what it will do as a baseline all the time. And so I leave pollution at default. So for a preview of this map, here we are. I think it's rather interesting. We have this relatively safe starting area, and we have this choke point here and over here to kind of close off the east of our starting base. But towards the west, we are wide open. And we have all these biter bases up here that are surrounding all of the raw resources that I'll be wanting to expand to. And over here in the east, that's where our oil is located, so we're going to have to decide how we run that into our base and how we set up production. But we also have to protect that because it's completely open to biters to the northeast and south. So I think this is going to make some interesting decisions without pressuring me too early to get an established defense and build walls and figure out how to feed turrets and stumble over all that instead of making progress towards launching a rocket. So with that, we're going to hit play and get right in. Now, for anybody who has never played Factorio, a lot of the starting game for everybody is running around using the pickaxe you start with to mine up some raw resources. And I'm no different than anybody else I've seen in that regard, I think. Even though the game is nice enough to start you off with a mining drill and a furnace to process your raw resources, one piece of wood so you can actually fuel the mining drill or the furnace, though not both, and enough stone to make 4 more furnaces, and some iron, which is enough to get something started, but not a lot. So for me, when I go around, I go out, I check my starting resource patches, just to see exactly what the spacing is, figure out how I might want to set up miners on there, and just take some time and think. I don't have to worry about biters right this moment, because no matter how close or how far they are, as long as I don't run into them, they won't attack because I'm not producing any pollution at the moment. I'm just another creature out on the world. And I also want to find these rocks. I want to collect as much stone in as short an amount of time as possible. And I want to find the ones that are also laced with coal. Because that means I don't have to go hand mine coal to get anything started. I can just immediately jump into getting iron started. And iron, at least for the early game, will be probably, in my opinion, the most necessary resource for building. It's used in everything, whether it's iron plates or iron gear wheels. Excuse me. It's used in everything, whether it's plate or gear wheels. It will be the main source of automated production movement in the form of conveyor belts. Items will be placed on a conveyor belts. They'll move it to the next step in the line, and you'll keep progressing like that. And it is the most used item for establishing all your mining, no matter what level of mining you're at, whether it's electrical or these very simple burner miners. So I'm going to go around, I'm going to find some stone, that way I don't have to spend many resources on mining stone automatically using a coal miner, because at least for establishing the smelting lines, where you take in ore, combine it with coal, so that you can melt it down and turn it into useful plates or stone bricks. In my experience, you need a lot of furnaces. You'll always be using furnaces. And for me, I'll establish my starting burners and my starting smelting line. The very small starter base I start with starts with 32 furnaces, and by the time I have a full smelting line of copper or iron ore started, iron will probably be the first I get set up, that requires 48. And my goal for about the middle of the game is to have 4 full iron smelting lines, with one of those being diverted to a same size steel smelting line, and I want that to be run alongside the iron. In addition to that, I think I want 4 copper lines, and then I want one stone brick line, for reasons that will become more apparent as the closer I get to that point. But if I've done my math correctly, that means I'm going to have about 10 full smelting lines. And at 10 full smelting lines, that is 480 furnaces. Not to mention any that I might use for miscellaneous projects, or a hurry-up scenario, or any expansions, or, well, I hope you get the idea. It's going to be a lot of furnaces. They are going to be something that never stopped being made for a good long while. And I've got a couple of tricks, and you can find these on other YouTube videos, on how to establish a automatic furnace making facility. It's really not too hard. It doesn't take a lot. And I know the first time I saw it, it kind of blew my mind, because I had never realized that you could do something like that. Yeah. And hopefully I'll be able to show you why before too long here. So right now I'm just getting the raw resources. I want to use as little resources put into these burner miners as possible, because I would much rather focus my efforts on getting electricity started. And because I'm going to be using electricity for a lot of my automation. In fact, all of my automation is going to be run on electricity. So I would rather get that started as soon as possible. Get it going early, get it going frequently, and establish my starter base with, excuse me, got a bit of a cold here today. But establish my starter base with its automation fueled entirely by electricity. And for that, I've already built the boiler and 2 steam engines. I've got enough copper for the offshore pump now. I'm going to build an underground pipe here, and a burner miner, or a burner inserter, which fuels itself off of coal, not electricity, because I'm going to be using these inserters to pick up coal off of a conveyor belt, place it into the boiler directly. And I think for this map I want to, let's look here. If I take this, I can run my smelting lines up here, put all the output lines, have them go this way to start my base. So I'll start electricity I'll start it down here. It'll still keep it out of the way, but right in line with the coal, and then I can branch off the coal to feed. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So, with that, we'll set this up to run, well, let's get some spacing here. There we go, there's my 2 steam engines. They can be connected end to end because they will run off of 1 boiler. And, oh, power poles. I always forget to get the power poles up until the point I'm setting this up. So with that, if we start here, then I'm going to Control-C to copy this, because I do like the spacing. Now I just need to figure out where it goes. And we're just going to do this for planning for spacing, because I think I want 2 lines of 10 boilers. That'll give me a total boiler count of 20. And the reason I want 20 boilers total is because 1 offshore pump fuels 20 boilers. I think that'll work. I'll just put my offshore pump over, no, I'll put it over here, because the water for this, we're essentially producing steam power, which makes water the one of the 2 most crucial components to this, with coal or some form of fuel being the second important component. And since we can block off the east from biter attacks fairly easily, but the west is going to be much more troublesome, I'm going to start this off with my pump over here towards the more protected side, because I'd rather sacrifice a couple of steam engines and a couple of boilers more readily than I want to sacrifice the offshore pump that's required to run this all. And so now we'll just run some electric poles out. It'll be a good starting point. Collect my copper. Collect what iron's been produced. And we'll go back up here, continue on with these power poles. And if it doesn't seem like I'm running around frantically trying to get this done as quickly as possible, that is exactly the case. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to run around hectically and frantically. I want to very deliberately think my way through everything I'm doing, which is part of the reason for explaining all of this and posting these videos, is so that I have a very deliberate understanding, a very thought out process, and so that I can see what that is, and that might allow me to focus my efforts elsewhere. Now, what you saw me build there was a laboratory to do research in, and I'll open up the research queue because this is now important. And to get anywhere in automation, we're going to need machines that build things for us. And so these are called assemblers. And the hilarious thing is that to get assembling machines, you have to research them first. I've always found it a bit odd, but it's a good spur to get you into research and get you into making things. And so I built a laboratory to get this research started. And you'll see here that it takes these automation science packs to research, and it'll take 10 seconds to research each science pack, and it'll take 10 of those science packs to do the research. So we're going to queue that up, and after that, I don't think there's not anybody who's very close, so I'm going to start logistics, which gets us a splitter and underground belt for our conveyors. And this allows us to do a lot of nifty things with a conveyor belt line to run it where we need it to and how we need it to get there, without having to lay out lines all around each other and play this very complicated game of conveyor belt snake. After that, I'm going to research military, so that for my character I can have a submachine gun to defend from early biter attacks, because the submachine gun is much more effective than the starter pistol. And when I build it, I'll show the stat comparison. Unlike the shotgun here, the submachine gun will shoot what you're aiming at and only what you're aiming at, whereas the shotgun is more of a directed explosion. It'll hit everything in a cone, including my own base. And that feels a little backwards to me. Not in the fact that the shotgun shouldn't be doing that. That's what shotguns do. They fire an explosion. They fire a shot in a cone. It feels backwards to me that I'd use something that every time I used it, it damaged my base as well as took care of my enemies. So I'm going to stick with the submachine gun just for the accuracy's sake. And then after military, well, we'll see where it goes. Whether I want to start researching more science, researching more production for steel, or researching turrets for defense. But these three I'm definitely going to need. One so I can build things, one so I can get the material there efficiently, and another so I can defend whatever I build. So with that, I'm just going to set up this lab over here, since it needs electricity and it can pull it straight off these poles. I'm got plenty of wood, so while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to produce a few more poles. Don't have much in the way of coal, so I'll go be picking that up very quickly here so I can keep my iron production running. I'm going to build a few of these inserters. Those are going to come in handy for picking up material and placing it in our assembling machines. And we'll just sprinkle this coal through everything. There we go. And right now all I'm doing is just kind of building up some basic resources. I could definitely use some chests until I get conveyor belts completely set up. I'll need somewhere to store the resources that the inserters are going to grab and place in my assembly machines. And chests will do that fantastically. Get those down there. We'll place the inserters on the hotbar where I prefer them. We'll make some conveyor belts just to get them on the hotbar, and I don't need to do that, but I like doing it. Only placing things I have in my inventory on the hotbar, because the hotbar is now a representation of what I have in my inventory. And instead of going through everything I could have on the hotbar and getting ahead of myself, I just want my hotbar to represent what I have access to right this second. And logistics is up next. That requires 20 automation science packs, so I'm going to get started on building 10 of those. And by the time I have those 10 researched through, I'm hoping to have the very basics of automation established for well, the very basics of automated science started up. It won't be a very big array to start with, but it will be enough where I don't have to continuously handcraft these science packs, which do take a while. And for assembly machines, that sounds like a perfectly logical place to start. We're going to be needing hundreds of those as well. In the early game, not quite as many assembly machines as furnaces, but then furnaces are a very simple thing, and they don't take very much to make, and they don't take very long. The assembly machines take a bit of time, and they take quite a few resources, as you can see. So we'll just put more of those science packs in there. We'll keep that laboratory researching, and I might have to actually hand make a few more which isn't any issue. Yeah, there's a reason we can build our own equipment, and so if we need to, we can, and I definitely will if necessary. So what I need to build automation science packs, and I have no idea what happened there, I think that was a misclick, here we are, is 1 copper plate and 1 iron gear wheel. So I'm going to set up an inserter to take red science packs from here, put them into the laboratory. This is going to be the main process for everything throughout this game. And where do I want my iron gear wheels? I think I'm going to have them here, because not only are iron gear wheels useful for researching science, but they are also very useful for building conveyor belts. And there's a way to set this up that I can use a chest filled with iron, and since, well, let me show you. Conveyor belts use iron plates and iron gear wheels, which is why I'm trying to set this up so the gear wheels will feed my science and my conveyor belts, or the assembly machines for those. They both also require iron plates, and so I want to feed them from the same chest. And I think this will do the trick right here. Now I just need to set up copper plates, which I don't have any in my inventory right now. Oh, no. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Thought I'd saved a few of those. Wouldn't be the first time I hadn't, though. We'll come back down here. Get everything fueled up. Pick up some more iron plates so I can feed my machinery. Pick up some copper plates so I can keep my research going right now. And we'll put the copper plates in the copper chest. We'll put the iron plates in the iron chest. And I need 2 more assembly machines. And this one is going to be making copper cable. And it's going to be using the same copper chest that I'm feeding my science production off of. But I need 1 more assembly machine, because what I'm going to be making are these green electronic circuits here, and they require iron plate and copper cable. So it should be very easy to incorporate that into this little setup, since I have a copper chest and an iron chest. And the reason I want to build these is because, just like iron plates and iron gears, green circuits are used in quite a few things. And that's not getting power, but that's fine. We can fix that readily. Maybe. Yep. We'll place this so it's close to my conveyor belts. And I need 1 more inserter, of course, which, if you notice, takes green circuits, takes iron gears. Oh, and we'll just limit that right there to 1 stack. That way this machine can also keep feeding our science. And we'll limit this to 1 stack right now. And I might put another dedicated gear machine towards science, but I'm hoping I don't have to. And I don't think I do. I've played a few games. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. The inserters only move so fast, and they can all pull from the chest at the same time. So I'm not too worried about that. The most I'm worried about is actually running out of raw materials. And to take care of that, what I'm going to go do is keep these furnaces and keep these burner miners fed for the moment. That way I can keep collecting the refined raw ore. Okay. And now I'm going to make sure to go over and fill the boiler for my steam electricity production. And I'm going to check, see how much power we're pulling. So right now we're satisfying all the possible power that we draw, and we are not producing nearly as much power as we possibly can. And if you just want to check exactly what the cap is, for steam engines, their maximum power output is 900 kilowatts apiece, or 1.8 megawatts currently. And right there, I think I just ran out of coal. And yeah, I can hover over that boiler. I can see that it's not producing any steam, and that's because it has no fuel in it. Well, that's fine. I'm going to go solve that problem right this very second. Open it up, dump in some coal, and since this is quite a distance to run, I'm going to start worrying about how to automate coal getting to my steam engine. So I'm going to make some electric miners, because as long as the steam engine's producing electricity, we will be able to mine coal. And as long as we're mining coal and delivering it on the conveyor belts, which require no electricity, then we will be producing electricity. And so it becomes this nice feedback system, where because one thing exists, the other thing can function, and so on and so forth. One thing to watch out for, and the reason I use burner miners, is since burner miners only require coal and we're going to be running coal to them, they'll take from the coal line first to fuel themselves, or the burner inserters, my bad. They will take from the coal line to feed the inserter themselves, and then they will, once they have enough fuel to keep operating, they'll take from the belt and put it into the boiler. And they burn nowhere near as much coal as will be provided. So we don't have to worry about a deficit, running a deficit in coal using the burner inserters. And since they don't require electricity, they'll always at least keep coal if it's available. Wow, I goofed that. I'll own it. I totally missed the line there. But yeah, so as long as there's coal available, the burner inserters will keep coal in the boilers. Whereas if we had electrical inserters, the moment you run out of electricity, they stop functioning. And we have plenty of iron plates, so we'll put that in there. Plenty of copper, we'll put that in there. And we'll take the one copper cable we have and put it in there. There we go. And now we'll start picking up. There we go. Our misplaced conveyor belts. And I had just enough to run the line too. It was going to be beautiful. But I think what I'm going to do is set this belt up, and then I'm going to call this an episode. So, and this is the one thing I hate about being one-off. It's not so much that I was one-off. It's that it takes so long to fix it. But that's okay. This is exactly what happens. I'd rather do this on the first attempt than when I have plenty of room to figure out exactly what I did wrong, than trying to do it under pressure, or when there's no room to move things around. So that I spend much more time correcting the issue then. And I'm still one transport belt short. But there we go. We got that sauced, we got it figured out, we got it flowing. So we have basic automated lab to do our research. We have some crude automated resource gathering and refining, which next episode I'll be automating. And we have conveyor belts and green circuits, almost fully automated. We just need to refine our, automate our mining and smelting, and then we'll be able to automatically feed into this green circuit and conveyor belt automation, as well as many other things. So with that, thank you very much for watching. This has been Factorio version 0.17.experimental. My name is Isaac. This is Creative Burrow's gaming channel. And thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.